Bedford City Council, fourth regular meeting, February 25th, 2025 is called to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Callahan. Vice President Collins. Council Lozaro. Council Lemming.
Present.
Council Scarpelli. Council Singh. President Bears.
President, everyone please rise to salute the flag. Announcements, accolades, remembrances, reports, and records. 25033 offered by President Bears. Be it resolved by the Medford City Council that we send our deepest condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones of Ruth Youngblood. She was a fixture in the West Medford neighborhood and West Medford Community Center, and her vibrant presence will be missed by so many people in our Medford community. I put this resolution forward. I first met Ruth early on in my first campaign for running for city council. And we had a lot of great conversations. And I also was able to buy a lot of wonderful cards from her over the years. And I still have a few left that are going to have a little bit of extra memory as I send them out. And I'm going to probably hold them a little closer and think of a special occasion to send them out before I do. So with that, I will go to Councillor Singh, Councillor Scarpelli, Councillor Collins. Councillor Singh.
Thank you. The cards are something that I will cherish a lot, especially now going forward. There was a good few years where the only cards I really bought were Ruth's cards. And, because they meant something more than a store-bought card, I would see Ruth at West Medford Community Center events, at artist fairs. And, she was such a reliable, dependable presence at those places, and a really reliable, smiley face who I could, talk to about issues that maybe I didn't understand because of my life experience. We grew up in very different places. We talk about how West Medford has changed, how the community has changed, what makes the West Medford Community Center community stick together so close, what's ticking there. And I've just learned so much from Ruth. And, every time I would look at the cards as they sent them out, I would get reminded, of the fact that I'm supporting a friend and supporting a local business, a local artist here in Medford too. And that's why for me, over those years, those were the cards I bought, and those were the cards I really cherished. Ruth is such a core presence in the West Medford community, and when she passed, so many people talked to me about the experiences, the really happy experiences that they had with her, and I'm very grateful for you, President Bears, for putting this on the agenda and for giving us a chance to talk about our happy memories of her.
Thank you. Councillor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Council Bears. Again, great words from Council Singh. I think that Ruthie was what Medford was all about. Her heart is open to everybody. She was so sweet, and when it came to election time, if you ever drove by Ruthie's home, she had everyone's sign. I don't think she could ever say no to anyone. And her allegiance was to anybody that ran for office here in Medford. So I think that, she told you like it was. There were times that she's pulled me aside and then brought me over to her card table at some fairs, and we negotiated some issues in the community. But she's definitely someone this community will miss. Her family is they're a very strong family in Medford that have faith and love of the city. So we send out our deepest condolences. She will definitely be missed. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councillor Collins.
Thank you for putting this forward. Want to send deepest sympathies to Ruth's family. I feel very lucky to have gotten to meet her several times over the years. Absolutely, always a constant fixture at West Medford Open Studios and other art events around the city. And always nice as, somebody who always goes to that event to always be able to count on seeing Ruth and saying hello and checking with her, seeing a smile and seeing what she had made recently. I know she meant a lot to the artist community in Medford. I know she just meant a lot to everybody who knew her. She was a really sweet person. I feel very lucky to have gotten to meet her. And again, our deepest condolences to the family.
Thank you. On the motion of Counselor Sang, seconded by Counselor Scarpelli, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Callahan. Vice President Collins. Counselor Lozaro. Counselor Lemming.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli. Counselor Singh. President Bears.
Yes. 7 affirmative, none negative, the motion passes. Is there a motion to join papers 25034, 034 and 035 by Counselor Scarpelli, seconded by Counselor Sang? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Callahan. Vice President Collins. Counselor Lozaro. Counselor Lemming.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli. Counselor Singh. President Bears.
Yes, 7 affirmative, none negative, the motion passes. I'll read them both, and then I will go to Counselor Scarpelli. 25034, offered by President Bears, be it resolved by the Medford City Council that we send our deepest condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones of Robert Emmett Scarry Jr. He'll be remembered for his long service as a member of the Medford School Committee and his dedication to the students of the Medford Public Schools. And we have 25035. Whereas the Medford City Council mourns the passing of Robert Emmett Bob Scarry Jr., a lifelong resident of Medford, Massachusetts, who passed away peacefully on February 13, 2025, at the age of 74, following a courageous 2-year battle with cancer. And whereas Bob Scarry was a proud graduate of Medford High School, class of 1968, and furthered his education at UMass Boston, formerly Boston State College, earning a degree in political science and English. He continued his academic pursuits at Harvard University Graduate School of Education, obtaining a certificate in school and community relationships, reflecting his lifelong commitment to learning and public service. And whereas Bob served honorably as a member of the 101st Engineers Battalion in the Massachusetts National Guard, demonstrating his dedication to both the Commonwealth and the nation. And whereas Bob dedicated his career to education and public service, working as a teacher in Everett and Medford Public School Systems, where he taught civics, social studies, and English, and coached varsity soccer. He furthered his impact on the community through over 4 decades of service in Medford City government, particularly as a dedicated member of the Medford School Committee and an active participant in the Medford Chamber of Commerce. And whereas in his professional career, Bob served as a senior investigator with the Bureau of Special Investigations for the Office of the State Auditor for over 35 years, upholding the values of accountability and integrity in public service. And whereas Bob was a devoted friend, neighbor, and mentor who touched the lives of many through his generosity, wisdom, and kindness, he was deeply committed to his beloved friend and partner, Maria C. DeMarco, and shared a special bond with her daughter, Margaret Meg DeMarco, her wife, Claire, and their children, Avery, Emerson, and Sloan, whom he cared for as if they were his own grandchildren. He was also a beloved brother, uncle, and cousin, cherishing his relationships with his family. And whereas Bob Scarry was a passionate supporter of his community, often lending a helping hand to neighbors, advocating for local causes, and celebrating Medford's spirit, he was an ardent fan of the Boston Red Sox, BC Eagles, and Notre Dame Fighting Irish. His love for Medford, his faith, and his country remained steadfast throughout his life. And whereas Bob's legacy of service and kindness and unwavering dedication to the city of Medford will be felt for generations to come, and he'll be deeply missed by all who had the privilege of knowing him. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Medford City Council hereby honors the life and legacy of Robert Emmett Bob Scarry Jr., and expresses its deepest condolences to his family and loved ones, and recognizes his extraordinary contributions to the city of Medford. And be it further resolved, the Medford City Council dedicates this meeting in his honor. Councilor Scarpelli.
I'm sorry for the long
It's great.
resolution, but I think that that's minimal what Bob Scarry deserves. Bob was very special. I think that he was a true passionate lover of the city of Medford and its people. Whenever anybody needed anything, Bob Scarry was there. Whether it was his time on the school committee or if somebody was having an issue, and as a senior citizen and they were having an issue at the State House, Bob would find a way to make it his mission to support anyone that crosses path. I was very fortunate that I served in the school committee with Bob Skerry, and I still remember my first day and being elected, and Bob came to the house and with a cigar in his hand and pulled me aside and said, "All right, son, this is how it goes, and this is what you'll do. And make sure that you have respect for this position because it deserves that respect." Everything from the clothes that I was supposed to wear to the way I addressed constituents and the way that we respected our office. Bob was truly a man that always gave back to Medford. And when Bob came up and whispered in my ear and said, "It's got me, buddy," and he talked about the cancer, and he fought, and I know that he had a tough last couple of weeks, but he's in a better place today, and Bob's family will miss him, the city of Medford will miss him, and I'll miss him. So may he rest in peace, and condolences to his family. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Go to Counselor Sang.
I really can't speak to Bob even, I really can't speak to Bob in such a, great way that Councilor Scarpelli did in his resolution, because I think there's such a life that was lived and such a dedication to his community that we really ought to respect. I can, however, speak to my short experience with Bob on the school committee, and I think that's a testament to how long he served our city, because I never intersected with George on the school committee, but I did intersect with Bob. And as a student rep to the school committee, he was always really a great guide in showing me the ropes of how things worked on the school committee and what questions we should be asking of our leaders in this city. And through that work, I really got to see how dedicated he was to our city as well. So I wanted to send my condolences to his family as well, and to remember Bob for the great work that he did in Medford.
Thank you, Counselor Sang. On the motion of Counselor Scarpelli, I'll go to Vice President Collins. On the motion of Counselor Scarpelli, seconded by Counselor Sang, we'll go to public participation. Name and address for the record, please. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. Andrew Castanetti, Cushion Street, East Medford, Mass. I first met Bob Skerry at the brand spanking new grand opening at the Medford Public Library in 1960. He's a man of great character. We love the United States of America, and we love our city of Medford, Massachusetts. And I'd like to say God bless all, including the other 1968 graduates of Medford High School. Please hear my prayer. Almighty God, creator of heaven, earth, all sentient beings and more, please get me and all of us to be and do the best that we can, now, always, forever and ever, in our quest for eternal, blissful peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we take the vote, if we could, well, let's take the vote and then we'll take a moment of silence for everybody. So if we could call the roll on the motion of Counselor Scarpelli, seconded by Counselor Sang.
Counselor Callahan, Vice President Collins, Counselor Lozaro, Counselor Lemming,
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli, Counselor Sang, President Bears.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion passes. If everyone could please rise for a moment of silence. Records. The records of the meeting of February 11th, 2025 are passed to Council Lozaro. Council Lozaro, how did you find those records?
I found them in order and I motion to approve.
On the motion of Council Lozaro to approve the records, seconded by Council Callahan. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Callahan. Vice President Collins. Council Lozaro. Council Lemming.
Yes.
Council Scarpelli. Council Singh. President Bears.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative, the motion passes. Reports of committees, 24033, Vice President Collins, Planning and Permitting Committee, February 12th, 2025. Vice President Collins.
Thank you, President Bears. This was our third meeting with the zoning consultant on the topic of the neighborhood and urban residential zoning proposal specifically. The fourth one is tomorrow at 6 p.m. We hope that residents will continue to join in this process. Motion for approval.
On the motion of Vice President Collins, seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Callahan. Vice President Collins. Council Lozaro. Council Lemming.
Yes.
Council Scarpelli. Council Singh. President Bears.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative, the motion passes. 24468, offered by Councilor Sang, Governance Committee, February 19th, 2025. Report to follow. Councilor Sang.
Thank you. In this meeting, governance committee meeting, we met to discuss in detail the rest of the charter study committee's recommendations as sent to us by the mayor's office. That mostly included school committee stuff and some elections, citizen participation mechanisms as well. We voted out amended draft of the charter study committee's recommendations to the committee of the whole meeting.
And that committee of the whole is next Tuesday at 6 p.m. On the motion of Councilor Sang to approve, seconded by Councilor Lozaro. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Callahan. Vice President Collins. Council Lozaro. Council Lemming.
Yes.
Council Scarpelli. Council Singh. President Bears.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative, motion passes. This should be in petitions, presentations, similar papers. My apologies, I didn't catch that. But this is 25032, proposed amendments to the Medford zoning ordinance, 10 and 20 Revere Beach Parkway for referral to the Community Development Board. This is from the petitioner at 10 and 20 Revere Beach Parkway. We have Valerie Moore from Nutter, McLennan, and Fish on behalf of the petitioner. I'm just going to summarize it and say that they are representing Transom Real Estate, the applicant, looking to have an amendment to the text of the Wellington Station Multifamily Overlay District, WSMOD, and they have proposed a red line amendment. The property consists of 2 parcels, which are currently owned by Houlihan Properties and 10 Revere Beach Parkway LLC. Petitioners, both of which consent to the petition. Essentially, the 3 clarifications that are being requested. First, the table of dimensional standards establishes a maximum front yard setback of 15 feet. The petitioner's property, as well as others on the Fellsway and Revere Beach Parkway, is subject to a perpetual deed restriction held by the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation that requires a minimum setback of 20 feet. So they're requesting that that be clarified, a footnote that if there's a property subject to a public agency restriction, that the maximum setbacks would coincide with that restriction. Second, there's a development incentive bonuses. It currently reads as certified, LEED Gold or LEED Platinum. The petitioners are proposing a modification from certified to certifiable because the LEED certification can't happen until the building is constructed. And the third is a definitions section clarifying the definition of building coverage to make clear it does not include building overhangs. They're arguing that the current definition is ambiguous on this point. Right now, the only thing before us is to refer this to Community Development Board as it's a zoning amendment. I will say I've spoken to the planning department staff on the first 2 of these items, and those are changes that we were planning to make as part of the zoning updates project anyway. So I can't speak to the third change, although it seems to me on its face reasonable. So tonight we would refer this to Community Development Board, and then they would refer it back to us with any recommendations and conditions. And with that, I'll recognize Vice President Collins.
Thank you, President Bears, for the overview. I would motion to refer to the Community Development Board.
Great. And I do want to offer, we'll go to Counselor Scarpelli, and then I do want to offer the petitioner a chance to take a look before we move forward. Counselor Scarpelli.
Okay, thank you. I know that this is something that first I've seen of it, so 10 to 20 Rear Beach Parkway. What are the abutters? Have the abutters been notified? Are there abutters next, that residents next to this? Because I think that before we move this forward, were the neighbors informed, and how do they feel about the situation?
Yeah, so procedurally, what would happen is we receive it, we refer it to Community Development Board,
And they send that out?
which we're obligated to do, and then
Right.
they'll schedule the public hearings of
Okay.
the CD board and work with the clerk to schedule a public hearing for us. Abutters will be notified of the public hearings, and then the public hearings will go forward.
Thank you for the clarification, Mr. President. Thank you.
You got it. Do we have a representative of the petitioner? Great. Just want to give you guys a chance to speak to the petition.
Hi, my name is Brian Lee with Transom Real Estate. I'm a partner there. Thank you for the time tonight. Won't take up too much of your time. I know it's late. I just wanted to take a moment to introduce ourselves. We're a local developer, a very small firm. We are 6 people located in the south end of Boston. We focus on really important sites in what we consider to be really great cities, and this is one of those. As you mentioned, we're focusing on 10 and 20 Revere Beach Parkway, which, as you all know, is really the Cappies and Monroe Auto site. There will certainly be a lot of discussions around our plans, but we're really here tonight in a very preliminary fashion to just discuss the zoning. One thing about Transom, despite being very local, we care a lot about design, and we care a lot about the neighborhoods in which we build. And so I think if you look at some of the history of our buildings in the past, we're really proud of how we contribute to the neighborhood and how we really involve the neighborhood's feedback into the design process. As I said, I won't take up too much of your time. I just wanted to introduce Transom. Our permitting attorney, Valerie Moore, is here, and she's much more capable to discuss the zoning issues than I am. Thank you very much.
Great, and thank you. If you'd like to, a counselor, if you'd like to share anything. You're on.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are. The red is good in this case.
All right. Thank you, President Bears. You summarized the 3 specific changes that we're looking for better than I could. So I'll speak
Oh,
to
great.
process and then answer any questions that you might have. So these are just minor changes proposed to the Wellington Station Multifamily Overlay District. You're not approving a project as part of this. Once those changes are approved, then we would be able to actually submit for our site plan review. That's when the public hearings on the project itself would be before the Community Development Board. So this is really a very preliminary step that would enable really full public review of the actual project that we intend to propose.
Great. That was going to be my question or clarification, just to elucidate the process. Even if this zoning amendment moves through all the phases and is adopted, then you would have your project proposal, which would go through site plan review for the specific project with all the studies and the comment and the process at that point.
That's correct.
Great. But can you tell that we've been doing a zoning update for the past 18 months? And honestly, it feels like for me for the past like 5 years.
That's right. You're pretty savvy on it. I'm impressed.
I was like, oh, this again. But no, thank you for bringing this to us. I know we'll have another chance to talk to you during the public hearing if the Community Development Board sends this back to us. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
On the motion of Vice President Collins, seconded by Councilor Lazaro to refer this to the Community Development Board. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Council Callahan. Vice President Collins. Councilor Lazaro. Councilor Lemming.
Yes.
Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Singh. President Bears.
Yes, 7 the affirmative, none in the negative, the motion passes. Thank you. All right, our next petition for a CV license, common victualer's license, Kelly's Roast Beef. They were here last time. Do we have a representative this time? Yes, we do. All right. So I'll go to Councilor Scarpelli to talk about this petition.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do see everything is in order. I think that there was one clarification. I think the clerk, just publicly, I know that the hours of operations, is that something we're changing now, Mr. Clerk? or does the petition have to come back for those extended hours?
To amend the hours of operation, they would have to come back, but it's not going to be through the special permit process.
Okay, so they do have to come back. So your hours are to 11 o'clock right now?
Mhm.
Okay, and then I know usually Kelly's was a great location for a little time after for people that work late, or Justin, who is at Harvard until 2 in the morning. So, I
Or
know
when
that-
Counselor
Oh,
Scarpelli has
you,
a few
or our
items
meetings. Our
on the
meetings.
agenda.
My wife won't allow me to go there anymore.
We can
I
go.
was one of the last people with the punch card. The three-way punch card. Oh, you guys don't know that, but.
I know
But no,
about it.
I see everything as in order, Mr. President. I know that already the feedback I've heard from people that super professional and, you know, that they're excited about this new venture with our new organization. And after my fellow colleagues have any comments, I would move approval.
Any other comments from anyone else? I guess, are you guys representing the new venture that has purchased Kelly's?
Yes.
Okay, great. Could you just go into a little, like, are you guys still pretty local or?
Yes, so David Massey, the owner of AAM 15 Management, he lives in Ipswich, Massachusetts, most recently of Georgetown. So he is a local guy. We're a real estate investment company. We have 11 hotels all on the North Shore or the Northeast, Turner Hill Golf Club up in Ipswich, and now we've gotten into the Kelly's segment. We have we call them the four legacy, the Medford, Danvers, Saugus, and Revere, as well as we built Salem, New Hampshire, Dedham, Massachusetts, and Worcester, Massachusetts, with the plans to continue to build, I think, 5 or 10 in the next 5 years. Down in Florida, we're looking to go. So we are a local company and looking to add a little bit more dimension to the Kellys that everybody knows and loves.
And so you guys have already built and operated some, and now you've purchased the originals.
Correct.
Great. And do you think there might be a potential for an extended hours at some point, or?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
I don't believe so. I think
Okay.
That-
late night thing is a thing of the past.
That might
Well,
have been a mistake on my part
You
when
can
putting
feel
the
free to
application together.
send back that some of us would like that.
Okay,
So,
if there's a request for it, we'll definitely do it.
it didn't come from George. Oh, yeah, can we have your names just for the record? Sorry.
Sure. My name is Lisa Whiteman. I'm from Peabody, Massachusetts, 9 Magnolia Way.
And you can use the business address if you want.
Sure, it's out of Burlington, Massachusetts.
And Jim Ratai, R-A-T-A-J, 3 Wayne Avenue, Ipswich, Massachusetts.
All right, well, thank you. We see everything in order, and the motion of Counselor Scarpelli to approve, seconded by Counselor Sang. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Callahan, Vice President Collins, Counselor Lozaro, Counselor Lemming,
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli, Counselor Singh, President Bears.
Yes. 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Did we have King Boba last time? Okay, I again, I apologize for that. So we'll just move beyond that. They've already been approved. For some reason, I got it in my head that we didn't have anyone here. All right, communications from the mayor, 25028, loan order, MWRA water bonds. Dear President Bears and members of the city council, I respectfully request and recommend that your honorable body approve the following loan order. City of Medford, loan order MWRA water bonds, that $8 million is appropriated for the purpose of replacing lead service lines and galvanized requiring replacement and addressing service lines of unknown materials in various locations throughout the city. Eligible for financial assistance to the MWRA's lead replacement program, including payment of any and all costs incidental and related thereto, that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow the said amount under and pursuant to Chapter 44, Sections 7 and 8 of the general laws, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the city. Therefore, that the treasurer, with the approval of the mayor, is authorized to borrow a portion, all or a portion of such amount from the MWRA pursuant to the MWRA's Local Water System Assistance Program, and in connection therewith, enter into a loan agreement and/or financial assistance agreement with the MWRA and otherwise to contract with the MWRA with respect to such loan and for any grants or aid available for the project or the financing thereof, and that the mayor is authorized to accept and expend any grants or aid available for the project or for the financing thereof, and provided that the amount of the authorized borrowing for the project shall be reduced by the amount of any such grants or aid received. I was really seeking a period there and it never came. So I'll just read the rest. And further ordered that the treasurer is authorized to file an application with the appropriate officials under the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to qualify under Chapter 44A of the general laws, any and all bonds of the city authorized to be borrowed pursuant to this loan order, and provide such information and execute such documents as such officials of the Commonwealth may require in connection therewith. Respectfully submitted, Mayor Brianna Longo Kern. And we have here as well the loan order opinion, KP Law. In our opinion, the loan order is in proper legal form, and I'm not going to read that whole letter. I'll go to you guys, Commissioner McGivern, Engineer Wartell.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hearing us tonight. The information that you just provided does it, right?
Yeah, I totally
No
understood.
questions, right?
I understood what I was reading.
All right, so as we've talked about before, we have a lot of work to do on our water system. A significant portion of that work is the lead service line removal. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to give a sort of a broad overview of the program and what we're going to do with this loan, and then Owen can dive into some nitty-gritty information that we've been working with directly to try to get this program up and running. So this program is from the MWRA. It's a loan program that provides a 25% relief. So like a grant, so 25% of that would be a grant if we use the money in a certain way. That certain way is removing both sides of a lead line and not just the public side. So we're basically going to be funding the full removal from the house all the way to the street. That's important because one of the things that the folks in the DEP and the EPA have discovered is that when you do half of a line, like has been pretty typical for many years now, it actually increases the risk of lead poisoning in the house. So it's frowned upon now, so we're trying not to do that anymore. We're transitioning to the recommended best practice. This is also what the EPA wants to happen within a certain amount of time. I'll get to that in a second. So with this loan, we would basically be providing a significant upgrade to our entire water system. The lead service lines, or the service lines in general, are a huge component of our system. You can just think every single building has a service line. So we have about 19,000 of them or so. The program would be a 3-year program. It would include soft costs and hard costs. What I mean by that, it includes hiring an engineer to put together a bid package for a testing and a removal and replacement program, as well as a statistical analysis to get rid or shed our numbers down with what we have. Right now, we have a lot of unknowns. So if we do a statistical analysis, we should be able to reduce that number of unknowns. That's important. How many unknowns we have and how many lead lines we have dictates how fast we need to remove them. And also, that's the biggest thing, how fast we need to remove them. But it also dictates how many folks we need to notice every single year. If you were lucky enough to get a notice this year, you'll know what I'm talking about. A lot of people did. All right. So just to take one big step back, this all is a result of the lead and copper rule that the EPA has been instituting over a number of years. This is a revision to the lead and copper rule. And that revision includes the mandate to remove the lead lines fully, as well as to send a notice to everybody that may have one, either unknown or definitely lead. So that's something that we have to do now. The deadlines for this are pretty rigorous. We have a deadline that is 2032 to see if we can get everything, all the lead out of our system. So that's our target, is 2032 to have a lead-free service line city. Now, the $8 million is probably not enough to get us there. So during year 3 of this 3-year push, we will be evaluating what we have left and then figuring out how to fund what we have left. We have tried different ways to fund this, and this was kind of option C. Option A was a EPA grant for somewhere around $20 million that we did not get, and we'll see how federal grant opportunities come about in the future. But we do have state revolving fund and we have MWRA, so we're in good shape for the moment. So with that, I'll let Owen talk and go over a few things, and then we'll be available for questions.
Just high level here is that we have about 14,500 service lines. About a third of them are classified as lead. About another third is classified as copper, and the other third is unknown. We have been working diligently over the winter to get this kind of working up and doing some investigative in the heights. And what we've found is that of the non-lead, 100% of those are non-lead. Of the unknowns, about 90% are non-lead, 10% are lead. And of the lead, or that we have records of that are shaded lead, about 30 to 40% are lead, and the rest are copper. So we think these numbers will come down drastically. We don't anticipate having 5,000 plus lead lines to come out, but there is a lot of investigatives that we need to do, and it's going to take time to do it. But I'm here to answer any questions if you have it. Happy to.
Thank you. Just a quick question, clarification. So we have what's on record, and you're saying, based on some early estimates, it feels like that's, or some stuff that you've already looked at, the records are just not accurate.
So there was a fire in the early 2000s in the water department. And
Okay.
we lost a lot of the records.
Got it.
So anything that is unknown, we have to classify as lead. We've been working over the winter to bring that number down. We've gone through about 500 of new records, visualizations, going to looking at meters and going through our records, and we've been able to eliminate a lot of those just
Alright.
with that.
Great.
Good.
We have a meter program happening right now, so full meter
Yes.
swap. So that gives us information on the inside. So that's new information. Also new information is a test pit contract that we have out in the streets happening. So about 620 test pits, and that is data that Owen is referring to. So we're seeing these percentages come up, which is why we're gonna try to remove many unknowns using statistical analysis.
Yes.
Because what this data is showing us is that our numbers say 5,000 leads and 4,000 and change unknowns. Okay, well, what is it really? So if we take a sampling of data throughout the whole city, we can use that sampling data to then do a statistical analysis.
Yeah.
To see what we really have.
Right.
And DEP, it will you can use those numbers to make our requirements less burdensome.
And the NWRA really wants us to tackle this. They're really on board with us, taking loans and making this happen. And it's mostly because of all the communities put together, all the NWRA communities put together, there are only 14,000 known lead lines. We have 5,000 of those just in this community.
Okay.
So they're really eager to help us in any way they can.
So we're their top
It
priority.
was Boston and us.
Boston and us,
but
okay.
Boston started a couple years ago, so they got a little bit of head start,
Right.
but we intend to catch up.
Just two more quick clarifications, and then I'll go to my fellow colleagues. Some of this loan money would pay for the analysis?
Yes.
Okay, and then the rest of it would go towards the removal and replacement.
The bulk of it would go towards a contract for testing and removals, and soft costs, maybe 10% of it is going to go towards engineering and the like.
And the statistical analysis is in that 10%?
Correct.
Great. And these loans will be repaid by the ratepayers or the taxpayers?
Correct. So about 6 million of this, if we use it the way that we just described, 6 million of it will have to be paid back over 10 years. It will be
Okay.
on ratepayers and 0%.
Through the enterprise fund only?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a bond for the enterprise fund.
You got it. Yeah.
Great.
It'll be paid debt service to the enterprise fund.
Awesome. I will go to, yes. Is this about what I just said? Okay, I'm going to go to Counselor Scarpelli and then you, and then Counselor Callahan. Counselor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Mr. President. So thank you to the both of you. I know that this is a daunting task. That's one thing we talked about earlier, how we have so many department heads doing so much with so little. So we really appreciate it. I know that, but is this the same, Mr. Ortel, we talked about the federal program when we talked about the lead. Is this in the same vein with that funding, or is it separate?
That was the funding that we were going for that we did not receive.
Oh, we didn't get it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So
So
we
we
did not
didn't get it.
receive funding
Okay.
that. Technically, it's still under review, but
Yeah.
of all the communities that went for that grant,
Yeah.
zero got it. So,
Wow, that was,
yeah, so the MWRA is still, like, they're looking for other ways as well. So,
we appreciate that. I know Fred Lasky's, I'm sure his line is, hopefully that's copper. So I know that, again, I think that the biggest thing, again, is when you talk about this, I know we'll get phone calls from neighbors. If they come and start doing this on the streets, when it's time, we'll have a plan in place with, I know you've been super aggressive with the curb to curb or making sure that whatever we cut, that the road is replaced at a reasonable,
So with this loan, we're going to focus on EJ communities first
Okay.
and try to target those areas.
Okay, good.
And that's where we're going to start, and then we're going to move out.
Okay, so there'll be a plan so people understand when it comes out to their end. Okay. So again, I thank you for all your hard work. This is something that we need, and it's something, especially as you're hearing throughout throughout the country, when you hear about lead, lead in the water and people getting nervous, I think that it's a step in the right direction. So appreciate that, your hard work. So thank you.
Thank you. Just quick clarification. Did the denials start coming out?
Not yet.
Okay, but
There was in October, we got in, we revamped again, resubmitted. And
Okay.
we have not yet heard back because there was an influx of applications and they won't make any determination or any ruling on any of the ones that were received in the last month until they reviewed all of them.
okay, got it. I'll go to Councilor Lazaro, Councilor Callahan, Councilor Collins, Councilor Lazaro.
Thank you. Thank you for this information. I got one of the letters, but mine was unsure. We're unsure if you have lead or not. But I want to clarify some stuff about this because it was a little, the letter's a little bit confusing. It's not paying to replace the lines. The homeowner replaces the service lines, right? Like, and it's a loan to help pay for, isn't it a loan that has to be paid back, or the city pays to replace the lines?
So this loan, one of the requirements of the program is the city would have to remove both the private and public side if they're both lead. And if only one is lead, we replace the one that is lead. So it's the cost burden is no longer on the homeowner.
So this is a different thing.
Correct. Our
Oh,
current
okay.
program provides a $1,000 rebate to the homeowner.
Yes.
Yep, so we don't know exactly what we're gonna do with that program at the moment. It will remain funded. It will remain funded for the time being, but it will most likely be phased out once we reach a point where it's no longer useful.
Okay, I didn't understand this is a whole new program where you're paying for it. Oh, okay, and that's why it's so expensive.
Yes, yeah.
The
Great.
intent was always for us to do both sides. We never had the means or the avenue to do that. And this is the avenue to do that.
Amazing. Great. That's wonderful. And I understand why then it makes so much sense to get all of the information about what the service lines are made of. My son had elevated lead levels in his blood when he was a baby because of paint in our house when we had work done on our house that basically flaked into his crib when he was like an infant. It was ridiculous. There's lead everywhere. And it's all very dangerous, but it was just one incident and it never happened again. So I think that our water is probably okay, but all of these things are kind of so hard to figure out how to, take care of your family to the best of your ability. But I'm really glad that we have an opportunity here to try to mitigate some of these things in Medford. I have a second question, which is, do you know if after the fire that destroyed all the records, if there's fireproof record keeping, were there changes made?
It's digitized.
Great, excellent. Love to hear it. Thank you very much for bringing this forward.
President Barris. I
Yes,
was wondering if I could just take the opportunity to say something.
sure.
I just want to make it really clear that there's nothing wrong with people's water. Because I think the conversation could turn alarming and it shouldn't be. The MWRA does a great job treating the water. And even if you have a lead line, the risk is still low. You should run your water in the morning if you know you have a lead line. And do best practices like that. And the city does provide information on that. We have information online. But this is in no way should spur any sort of alarming issues with folks.
Yes.
The lead line has been in the ground, servicing your house for quite a long time. We want to get it out of there.
Yes, and I'm guessing you would agree with the statement that the point of this is to avoid any potential future issue, not address a current issue of health or safety.
Correct. It's basically we're increasing the water quality for the city of Medford.
Great.
That's really what this does.
All right.
Yeah.
I did have one clarifying question. If records were lost, I'm sure a lot of residents have had work done on their homes at some point. Is there a mechanism for them to communicate to you? Like if they got a letter to say, oh, we had a plumber in, we have the plumber looked at the line. Is that useful information? Is that information you can even use, or is it just kind of hearsay?
We've received those calls.
Okay.
And that's what we've received since October, since we put the letters out. And yeah, just call either water quality hotline or, and we'll take a look.
Great. All right. Councilor Callahan.
Thank you. Thanks for all this work that you're doing. And I'm hoping, can you give us a little bit more of the big picture? Because I know that we have like 125-year-old water lines throughout the city, and it's hundreds of millions of dollars for us to replace them all. Can you fit this into the context of that? I know that this is a specific APA project that has a deadline, but give us a little bit of context in terms of how does it fit into our sort of longer term plans to replace these aging pipes?
Different.
Yeah, I'd say it's a piece. I'd say it's a piece, but it's a very sectionable piece. It's something that needs to be done. It's very quantifiable, much more than the rest of the water system. A lot of the water system, we find out when it's in bad shape when it breaks. This one, we can kind of quantify it. We know what to expect. We know how to do it. So, we've come up with estimates anywhere between $40 and $60 million worth of lead service line removals in this city. That's with the numbers as they stand now. But, as we've been saying, we believe those numbers in reality will be lower. So it could be closer to 30 million, but it's definitely in the tens of millions. And then as far as like our entire water system and, the needs of our water system, it's a separate need than say, replacing old water mains that are breaking and leaking. It's very regulatory driven. If the EPA wasn't making us do this, I'm not sure how fast we would move. But for the water breaks, we're moving, we need to move faster. So I wish that the EPA funded us to replace all of the water pipes and we'd move pretty quickly. So anyway,
So
hopefully that answers the question.
is it safe to say that like this is just the very end of like the sort of roots or tree branches or whatever you want to call it of
Yes.
the water system? So at this point, because of the deadline and the funding, we're going to be working at the ends of the system, and that after that, when that deadline is no longer pressing, that we will move on to working to the rest of the aging water system.
Both.
We're doing both at the same time. Now,
Okay.
this loan is for the ends,
Yep.
the service is only. But we are still moving forward with our water main replacement. We're trying to ramp that up as well. And whenever we do a water main project, we always replace the lead lines on those lines. And the targeting for water main replacement is more on a fire safety, pressure, head loss type of basis versus where the lead lines. We want to make sure that people have water when it's needed.
The pressure is there, the volume is there. Those are the two big ones. Water quality is important too. When we replace an unlined cast iron pipe from 1905 to a ductile iron pipe that's lined, that's an increase in water quality as well. I think I probably thought of a better answer to your question though. We have to ramp up all of these things, and one of the things we're trying to do to get a handle on it is we have one of our consultants working on, and I've talked about this, a long-term rate plan with the CIP. They're wrapping that work up now. So basically means taking our capital improvement program and then saying, okay, we think the rates for water need to grow at this rate in order to accommodate that capital program. And then we're also saying, well, what are we missing, consultant? And they're telling us, well, you also have to do this, this, that, and that should be in your capital program, and this, you should be doing this many miles, and this many, so that's coming. And actually, I owe the Water Commission a meeting on this to see if we can make sure we have something lined up for this budget season. So that might provide a little bit more context to your question. It's a huge task to wrap our heads around, but that's what we're trying to do right now. It's something similar that we did with pavement a few years back, is to understand the problem first. So that's really where we're still at with water. But we know we have to do this, and it's very defined.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. And just to, again, just for my brain to understand, the MWRA is giving out essentially like a 25% discounted loan for this purpose because the regulations are so stringent around this specific issue. And that's what, like, if you could get this for mains, you would, but it's not offered because the regulations aren't requiring replacement of old mains in the same way.
That's a good way to put it. I wouldn't say it's all the way correct.
Okay,
But
great.
it's a good way to think about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would make it more correct?
There is funding available for water mains.
Okay.
It's just not forgiven, so there's no
Right.
25% grant.
Okay.
So, if we've come before, like, let's see, I forget exactly when it was, but a year and a half plus ago. Last January, okay, there you go. We came before you guys for approval for a $3.5 million bond that was going to be used to replace the Willis Ave water main.
Right.
Which is taking an old water main installed in 19 whatever to a new water main. So that was funded through a MWA program. So, and then the state revolving fund also provides funding for that as well. The difference is that the regulatory pressure from the DEP and the EPA is what kind of sets us apart.
Okay.
Also, the other thing that sets us apart is that if we continue to do it the way we have been doing it, which is we do ours, you guys do yours, and we all
Right.
walk away and it's done.
It's worse.
That they're finding out that makes it worse
All right.
for the homeowner. So that's the other sort of circumstance here, which is why they're saying, okay, listen, we'll give you, if you take $8 million out, we'll give you $2 million of that.
Right. And the bonds, the previous bond, it was 0 interest, but there wasn't like 25% rebate or.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Councilor Collins and Councilor Callahan.
Thank you. Really appreciate the big picture, the granular information. Thank you for all of this. Just want to go back to one clarifying question that I had from your presentation. And sorry, I'm sure that you made this very clear. I'm just trying to keep track of the numbers. You mentioned for example, there's a certain thousand number of lines that are classified as copper, for example, and you said of that number of lines, there's a percentage that we know to be, that gave me the impression that even the lines that already have a classification, we're going back and double checking. Is that the case?
Where we're digging, yes.
Okay.
So when we dig down, ones that are copper are copper. We've never found one that is not copper.
Okay. So it sounds like the trends are things that we think to be copper broadly are copper, and things that we think to be lead broadly are lead. And then it sounded like, and correct me if I misheard you, that most of the unknowns are turning out not to be lead. Okay, thank you. Just
Yep.
wanted to make sure. I
And
heard
it
you
also sounded
correctly.
like most of the lead, only 30 to 40% of the
Correct.
lead are actually lead. So
Yes.
most of the leads aren't lead.
Right. You have to remember that our records date back to some of them date back to 1896. Like they
good
were
year.
initially done, and then anything that was redone, and we lost those records. So
Right.
we have the originals.
So you might have a record that says it was lead and then it was replaced, but that second record got burned in a fire.
Correct.
So you're calling it lead, but it actually got replaced.
Correct.
All right. Councilor Callahan.
Thanks. Just one super quick question, and I think you already said it, but if you can repeat, when would this work be completed? Approximately, do we have any ideas?
Yes. We do. So the program that we're introducing today is 3 years. So it'll last 3 years, approximately. But we have a deadline of 2032 to get our
Okay.
lead service lines out of the ground. That's a really aggressive deadline for this, which is why we're really hoping that those numbers that we just talked about, those two categories, lead and unknown, we're really hoping the trend continues that 30% of the lead are actually not lead.
And
That would be
can
great.
can I ask a question? So I'm specifically thinking of some constituents who have reached out to me and like begged me for any sort of resources that they can do, that they can possibly get for replacing their lines because they know they have lead in their water. Do you have any thoughts on should they just pay to do it themselves? Is there, if they replace their part, but then the other part isn't replaced, is that then possibly going to be worse? What should they do given that they're concerned right now?
Well, I can only, I mean, speaking as a resident and speaking as someone who also tested my children when they were very young and they did have lead in their system. And, you know, I have a water system at my house that filters it, everything. It's a reverse osmosis system. So that's probably the most cost-effective way to do something on your own. But I would recommend that if you own a house and your house is worth 6 figures plus, you know, obviously most of them are around here, it's well worth your investment to spend the $3,000 or $4,000 it's going to be to fully replace your lead service line with copper. It's well worth it. It's an incredible investment that you can make. Now, if you want to wait for the city to come to you and do your whole line, you certainly can do that, and many people will do that.
Okay.
But if you are a family with young children and our inventory says that you have a lead line in your house and you own your house, there are options available to you. The cheapest one, like I said, is some sort of reverse osmosis system for your house. Then there's one thing cheaper than that. That's just best practices. When you wake up in the morning, run your faucet for a little while. Go through your fixtures. Make sure your fixtures don't have lead or old brass in them. Things like that. So there are lots of very cheap things that you can do that are more best practices. Then there's filtering systems that you can get, and then obviously the standard, the gold standard is just replace the line with copper.
It's so incredibly helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and we offer $1,000 right now, and that program is active.
Great.
And I think also just should be noted, just to reiterate your point, it's not always the line. It could be fixtures or something else in the house. Be systemic about it. We just saw what at the middle schools, right? The lines are probably fine, but you had some fixtures with issues. Yeah. So
Usually is.
okay, great. Any further questions on this? We can motion to approve for first reading, or we can motion to approve for third reading if there's no objection.
You know, you need 3 readings.
We can't do it with
It's
a
a loan order. you need
loan
3
order
readings.
needs 3? Okay. All right, so the motion would be to approve for first reading if there is one. On the motion of Councilor Callahan, seconded by Councilor Zarro to approve for first reading. Ms. Clerk, please call the roll. Councilor Zarro.
Council Callahan. Vice President Collins. Council Lozaro. Council Lemming.
Yes.
Council Scarpelli. Council Singh. President Bears.
Yes, and the affirmative, none of the negative motion passes. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
25029 wage adjustment for the Traffic Supervisors Union. Respectfully request and recommend approve the following amendments. Traffic supervisors effective July 1, 2024, 0.5%. Note that this union received 2% on 6/30/2024. July 1st, 2025, 2%, July 1st, 2026, 2%, July 1st, 2027, 2%. So is there a motion or do we have any further discussion on? Yep. Yes, this is the union contract agreed with the traffic supervisors.
Possibly waive the 3
Yeah.
readings with this, because I think that the units that have been waiting a while, if we could move forward
Yep.
and waive the readings, I'd appreciate that.
A motion of Councilor Scarpelli to waive the 3 readings and approve for third reading, seconded by Councilor Collins. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Callahan. Vice President Collins. Counselor Lozaro. Counselor Lemming.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Singh.
Yes.
President Bears.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative, the motion passes. 25030, Community Preservation Committee Appropriation Request, Cross Street Cemetery Monument Restoration Phase 1. On behalf of the CPC, I respectfully request and recommend your honorable body approve the following recommendation, requesting $5,000 from the CPA Historic Reserve to the cemetery trustees and the Historical Commission for Phase 1 of the Cross Street Cemetery Monument Restoration Project. Respectfully submitted, Brianna Longo Kern. We do have Manager Dupont,
Move approval.
Vice Chair Hayward, and I did just want to also note that there were some other funds going towards this project. We have a motion to approve by Counselor Scarpelli, seconded by Counselor Sang. It sounds like it's going through. Do you want to raise your hands to say anything, or are you all good with that? I'm seeing shaking heads. On the motion, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Callahan. Vice President Collins. Counselor Lozaro. Counselor Lemming.
Yes.
Counselor Scarpelli.
Yes.
Counselor Singh. Yes. President Bears.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative, the motion passes. Thanks, you guys. 25031, submitted by Mayor Brianna Longo Kern. If we do this in 1 minute, I win a bet with the clerk. Home rule petition, institutional master plans. I respectfully request and recommend that your honorable body approve the following home rule petition and transmit to the general court for their consideration. This is an act granting the city of Medford the authority to require the adoption of institutional master plans subject to the review and approval of the municipality. This is, I think, the 4th refiling of this home rule petition, and it essentially would allow the city to require that large-scale institutional facilities, for example, a Tufts University, that they have to provide a master plan to the city, and that the city can impose institutional master plan review to regulate the use of land or structures for land owned, leased, or otherwise occupied by hospitals, healthcare institutions, colleges, universities, and nonprofit educational corporations. I will go to what looks to be Counselor Collins.
Thank you, President Bears. This is something that has come up in a lot of recent discussions in the community lately, including but not limited to city council meetings. Such a measure, if communities like Medford were allowed to institute mandatory institutional master plans, would give us the greater latitude and authority that I think we all know that we need and deserve over the very large institutions that take up a lot of real estate and take up a lot of land and footprint within our communities. I think a lot of people can recognize by gut instinct that a community should be able to have some level of mandatory, at least conversation and co-planning with institutions that have such a large footprint in their communities. Currently, we are very disenfranchised in being able to enforce that. This legislation around institutional master plans, which is something we're not currently enabled to do, this home rule petition would be asking for the permission to set up that mandate, that regulation, would allow us to equalize the playing field with community partners such as Tufts University, other very large institutions, so that we can do a better job of collaborating or do the collaboration that we've been wanting to do all along on these issues that affect both the institutions and the communities like ours that host them. So I motion to approve.
On the motion to approve by Vice President Collins and submit this to the legislature, seconded by Counselor Sang. I saw your request. Counselor Callahan.
Thank you. Yes, I wish there were much more that we could do. It is really, I believe, quite ridiculous that we cannot actually get this without a home rule petition, which is almost certainly going to be denied. We should be getting real estate taxes from these large institutions. A master plan is really small potatoes, and it is quite frustrating that we have to do a home rule petition, and it is unlikely to be approved, but I am certainly in favor of this home rule petition. I hope that it passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Callahan, and I also am in favor. I'm, continually frustrated by the exemptions that especially large institutions get from the basic processes and procedures that this community asks of every other member of the community, down to the 3,000 square foot lot owner. Never mind that Tufts has a budget of, many 10 or more times the size of the city of Medford, an endowment certainly bigger than any sort of reserve fund that the city of Medford has. and the ability to leverage all of that to their advantage, in addition to their legal protections. So very supportive of this. I will go to Councilor Lazaro, and then we do have public participation on this.
And just one thing I would like to add is that many of us in this community have strong opinions about a lot of things, but something it seems like we can, almost all of us can agree on is that we think that it would be nice if Tufts University could come to the table and meet us as an equal partner. It really brings our community together when we talk about stuff like this. So it would be nice if the State House would, also meet us there. We would really appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you. I will go now to public participation. We have a hand on Zoom. Name and address for the record, please. And once I unmute, you'll have 3 minutes. 1 second. Here you go. Matthew Paisley.
Yes, Matthew Page, living on 15 Canal Street. I was watching this bill in the last session, and it was mothballed to go off to a study committee. I reached out to Representative Barber last month about it because she was the lead sponsor, and I reached out to the planning department about this. I watched the hearing, which was 2 years ago for this bill. Representative Barber spoke. Representative Mayor Longo-Kern spoke for our bill, and there was also Mayor Ballentine, because there's an analog bill that Somerville has. Mayor Ballentine really gave some, I think, compelling arguments. Our mayor said that the bill had previously been introduced twice, and our mayor was hoping that the third time would be a charm. I think that when bills come from the administration or requests come to the administration to the city council, I would hope that the administration would explain how they're going to try to do something differently elsewhere. Just re-asking for something, going to the motions and expecting for it to die. Else, our mayor may be saying, this time, perhaps the fourth time will be a charm, and not expecting anything differently. We can assume that Tufts has lawyers, that are lobbying legislators not to do anything. And it would be nice if perhaps the planning department would appear in the hearing and explain this. It would be nice if the administration were to be able to communicate to residents why this is important, and also get residents involved to give testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? No. I owe the clerk one piece of candy. Yeah, Matt always has them, and he's not here to defend it, so. All right, on the motion of Vice President Collins, seconded by Councilor Sang. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Callahan. Vice President Collins. Councilor Lazaro. Councilor Lemming.
Yes.
Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Sang. President Bears.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative, motion passes. That brings us to public participation. Is there anyone in the chambers or on Zoom who would like to speak on any matter to their heart's content for 3 minutes? Seeing none, is there any further motion by members of the council? On the motion to adjourn by Councilor Sang, seconded by Councilor Callahan. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Callahan. Vice President Collins. Councilor Lazaro. Councilor Lemming.
Yes.
Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Sang. President Bears.
No, 5 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative.